Have you ever stopped to consider the intricate connection between larceny, robbery, and homelessness in America? The threads of these societal issues weave a complex tapestry that warrants our attention. In the United States, a significant portion of the population experiences the harsh reality of larceny and robbery. The Federal Bureau of Investigation reports that in 2022, over 5 million instances of larceny took place. That's a staggering number, equal to the entire population of Norway, all falling victim to theft in a single year. Robbery, a crime that involves direct confrontation and threat, also poses a substantial challenge. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, approximately 300,000 robberies occurred in the same year. The impact of these crimes extends beyond the immediate loss, often leaving victims traumatized and fearful. But how does homelessness fit into this picture? The National Alliance to End Homelessness estimates that on any given night, more than 500,000 people in America are homeless. This figure doesn't just represent those sleeping on the streets, but also those in temporary shelters or transitional housing. It's an issue that pervades every state, every city, and every community. Now, it's important not to assume that homelessness automatically equates to criminality. However, it's undeniable that the desperation born from homelessness can sometimes lead individuals to resort to theft or robbery as a means of survival. Yet the relationship between these issues is multi-directional. Criminal records, often resulting from petty larceny or minor robbery charges, can act as a barrier to employment and stable housing, contributing to the cycle of homelessness. In this video, we've delved into the interwoven issues of larceny, robbery, and homelessness in America, revealing a complex web of causality and correlation. We've learned that over 5 million instances of larceny and 300,000 robberies occurred in 2022, painting a troubling picture of crime in our nation. We've also discovered the disheartening reality that over 500,000 individuals face homelessness on any given night, a situation that can sometimes lead to criminal behavior out of desperation. Conversely, criminal records can perpetuate homelessness by limiting access to employment and housing. In addressing these issues, it's vital to remember that they're not isolated. They're interconnected, each one a thread in the larger tapestry of societal challenges. Only by acknowledging and understanding these connections can we hope to untangle this intricate web. It's a daunting task, but one that our society must undertake if we aspire to a future where larceny, robbery, and homelessness are not the norms, but the exceptions.
In the New Testament, and I'll find it, and either I'll put it in here or I'll put it down below up in the description box. In the New Testament, that Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you. He said that there will always be poor people in the earth. And I heard somebody explain it this way, the way I'm going to tell it. I can't 100% say that that's what the scripture meant. But when they broke it down the way that I'm about to tell you, I was like, ooh, that's good. And it made sense. So I'm going to use the previous video talking about robbery / homelessness as it relates to having a poor spirit. What the minister was saying was that Jesus wasn't saying, there will always be people that have low income in the world, which there will also always be, but there will also always be those that have a poor spirit. And this is what people that steal have. And I'll elaborate in just a minute. I remember it was I want to say late 2018, maybe early 2019, and a lot of things started happening to where I could get an understanding of different things that people were going through. And some of those things I actually had to experience them. And I won't really go into what happened, but I was, I guess, blessed with the opportunity to understand the mindset of people that like, I guess, panhandle, beggars, some people call them. Not a fan, not a fan, because I've always been extremely independent. It takes a lot. It takes a lot for me to ask somebody something. So people that I know like if I'm asking for something, like I definitely need it. I'm kind of one of those people that are detrimentally independent, I guess. Like I'll take it too far. I'll go without before I ask. So I never really respected people that panhandle, but that's kind of irrelevant. My opinion doesn't necessarily matter. The reason that I'm stating it was because I was caused to be in a position where I had to understand, what their mindset is, and I guess I could say I can, but indirectly, because I was caused to do something, is kind of different than when that's your norm. But the thing about panhandling, the thing about people that beg, sometimes I'll go early in the morning and I'll see people outside fast food restaurants, at the drive-through, when people roll down their window, they're there asking for money, and I'm like, yo. So you have those who be more like beggars, and then you have thieves. And they all fall into the same category of being poor in spirit, and this is why. Whenever you feel the need to take from someone else, as opposed to getting it on your own, that shows a lack of, not only a lack of character, but it shows that you don't have enough faith in your own abilities to acquire whatever it is that you need on your own. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of people a lot of rappers, happy birthday hip hop, I don't even think I said it, but there are a lot of rappers that, in their rhymes, they'll say, before I starve or whatever, before I go broke, I'll take it from you. I've heard that a lot. And it sounds good in a rhyme, but it's not a good look for your actual character, because it shows that not only do you not have faith in your own self, but you don't think, you're not creative enough to come up with a way to get what you need aside from taking it from somebody else, if that makes sense. Like, we are manifestive beings. Like, we have the ability to create situations, create ways, fulfill desires with the words of our mouth. That's just how we're created. But when you don't know that, or you don't have confidence in that, the way that you handle situations is going to be pretty slim. It's going to be pretty limited, and more often than not, it'll probably involve some type of thievery, which is an attribute of the devil. I think that we view our lives too much in a natural sense, so much so that not only have we dumbed down our abilities, but we've changed the course of the world. And I think that that's why some people choose to beg and some people choose to steal, because they are unaware of their abilities. And the only way to And that's something, that you can hear about in church. And I'm not at all trying to shun church. Like, you can hear about it, and even begin to have faith in it. However, there are certain things that, to get an actual understanding, you really need to be tapped into to the Spirit of God. Like, there's just no way around God's presence. You know what I mean? Like, it's needed for everything. And I think that we take that for granted. Sometimes, I know I did for years. One of the things that I just recently learned about why things are going the way they are in my life. I thought it was tied to one thing, but God revealed to me that it was tied to something completely different. I was living my life as a sacrifice for many, many years, as opposed to being obedient. Like, I was present at church. I was there all the time for years. And I praised and I prayed and I worshiped and I took classes and I sung in the choir and I volunteered at this place and that place. You know what I mean? But when it came down to an actual relationship with God, I didn't have it. And I didn't even really know it, because I was so busy sacrificing that I just assumed he and I were all good. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought everything was cool. But then when he called out to me and I developed a relationship with him, I'm like, oh, this is another level. And this is the level that thieves lack, and people that beg lack, and people that panhandle lack. Because when you have a relationship with God, especially a confident relationship, you know what I mean, like a surety, there are a lot of things that you won't have to do, and there are some things that you just won't do. You know what I mean? And not even outside of this topic and this episode, like, you know what I mean? It's just, there's certain things that you just won't do. I spoke about in episode 1 how once I developed a relationship, I realized how hard it is to lose focus. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, it's something about being kept. There's something about that connection that just almost like it won't allow you. You know what I mean? Like, you have to actually go outside of your way to lose focus. And it's a beautiful thing. Excuse me. It's a beautiful thing. But people that steal, people that panhandle, people that beg, for some, I can't say that it's all, but for some, it is a spiritual disease in a sense. Like, that there is a spirit attached to that. Well, there's a spirit attached to everything, but there's a spirit that is attached to that mindset, that is attached itself to those people. And so when you do things, we can't, especially now in the times that we're living in, we have to be really mindful about the things that we do. Not only that, but why? Why is this going on? Why am I doing this? Why do I feel this way? Why do I say these things? You know what I mean? Like, we have to be extremely mindful, because a lot of people feel like, I think a lot of people feel like death is the end. And so they just kind of live their life haphazardly, thinking that hell is not a real place. Or even if it is, it's just something like your body will be burned or something like that. But we all are going somewhere. It's not necessarily heaven. It's not necessarily hell, but there are different forms of both of those places. Either way, wherever you go, you'll still have your senses. Like if you go to hell and you go to the portion of hell that burns with fire and brimstone, you're gonna feel it. You know what I mean? You're gonna hear the wailing. Like that's literal. It's not something that, you know, somebody just put in a book. It's a real place. And at some point I will possibly at some point I will tell you all how I know of one of those places. I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even have went there. But thieves and beggars and panhandlers and gangbangers and murderers and repeat offenders, all of us, whatever category we all fit in, we need a deeper relationship or a relationship with the spirit that we call God. Is the only way for us to be whole as a person. You know what I mean? Like it's the only way for us to be free as a person. It is the only way for us to be at peace and at joy in this state.
Have you ever wondered what lurks in the shadows of the city, where the cold hand of crime tightly grips the concrete jungle? Welcome, dear listener, to a tale as old as time, a narrative woven with threads of drug dealing, murder, and the relentless struggle for survival. Today, we delve into the dark underbelly of the city, where the line between right and wrong blurs, and the stark reality of life in the ghetto and the suburbs unfolds. Picture it, the 1960s, a time of revolution and change, yet in the heart of the city, a different kind of revolution brews, the birth of the drug trade, a business that thrives in the shadows, feeding off desperation and despair, a business that over time evolves into an empire built on addiction, money, and power. As the 60s roll into the 70s, the empire expands, reaching into every corner of the city. From the broken windows of the ghetto to the manicured lawns of the suburbs, no one remains untouched. The tendrils of the drug trade wrap tightly around the city, choking the life out of it. Crime rates skyrocket, murder becomes a daily occurrence, the city becomes a battleground, a war zone where survival is the only goal. With the 80s and 90s, the war escalates. More drugs, more money, more power, more lives lost to the senseless violence. Overdoses become as common as the morning paper. The city, once vibrant and full of life, now stands as a monument to the devastating effects of the drug trade. As we move into the 21st century, the battle continues. The city, worn and weary, fights back. Law enforcement steps up. Communities band together. But the scars remain. The shadow of the drug trade, the murders, the overdoses, they linger, a constant reminder of the city's tumultuous past. Today, the fight is far from over. Every day brings a new challenge, a new battle to be won. But in the face of adversity, the city stands strong. It refuses to be defined by its past, choosing instead to carve a new path, a path towards a future free from the shackles of the drug trade. And so the story continues, a never-ending cycle of struggle and survival. But this is not just a story, this is reality. This is the daily life for many. This is the city in all its gritty, raw, and unfiltered glory. Now it's your turn. Stay informed, stay vigilant, stand against the tide of drug dealing and crime. Every voice counts, every action matters. Together we can write a new chapter in the city's history, a chapter of hope, resilience, and redemption.
Yeah, let's flip it.
The reason why or how we can do one or more or all of those things that was just scrolled through and not have any results is because it's up to each individual. Each individual that commits crimes on a regular basis, it's up to them what they want to do with their life. If they want to remain that way, then they have that option. For the betterment of themselves, though, and of course for their families, for their children, for the energy of this world, for the atmosphere. Oh, baby, for heaven's sake. Of course, it's better they do something different, but they have that option. So, people are always like, well, what can we do? What can we do? We need to do more. There's only so much more that we can do. It has to be each individual. So going back to what I stated at the beginning of this episode, I was saying that the cause for it is for two reasons. So in episode 2A, I expounded on I just gave a hint at, and in this episode I want to expound on the parable of the wheat and the tares. So in the Holy Bible there's a parable, and basically it says that a good man, he came and he planted a vineyard and he put some wheat in that vineyard, and this is going to be based off the world. So the vineyard is the world, and the wheat that he put in that vineyard are his people, and these are good people. These are pure people. But while he slept, the enemy came, which is a representation of the devil, excuse me, and he sowed in some tares in that vineyard. Now the tares represent evil people. Basically, he sowed some tares in, so there were some angels. They went to the good men. The good men is a representation of God. Obviously, Satan is the wicked one that sowed in the tares. But so the angels came and they said, should we just dig up these tares? And he said, no. He said, let the tares grow up with the wheat, because you might, in digging up the tares, you might dig up wheat. And there is, and I'll put the link at the bottom I'll put the address at the bottom for the exact scripture passage where it's located. It elaborates a little bit, but not so much. You really have to go a little bit deeper to figure out really what's being hinted at as far as why God allows evil. That's the question that's been going on forever. People wonder, everybody wonders, if there's such a good God, why does he allow evil? And the answer is in that parable. So it was written, don't pull up the tares, because in pulling up the tares, you might pull up wheat. Well, how is that? If there's an obvious, or there's supposed to be an obvious distinction, between evil people and pure people, why then, or how then could you pull up wheat or pull up tares when trying to pull up wheat when you're trying to pull up tares? And the answer is simple, and it goes along with this episode. Conformity is the answer. So there are a lot of people that live their lives opposite of what they should be. There are some people that genuinely in their heart they're good. however they choose to live the life of one that is evil for whatever reason. That being said, that is how or why the tears aren't being pulled up, because God's mercy is giving these people that are living I guess I want to say maybe like a lukewarm life. They're living a life opposite of what they should. He's giving them through his mercy an opportunity to change, to mature, and to choose a side. That being said, that may be some of you that have watched. Just know that God's mercy is basically is waiting on your decision. God is waiting on you. Like, the reason that we all have to suffer may very well be because God is waiting on you to pick a side. He's waiting on you to mature. He's waiting on you to stop being evil. God is waiting on you to choose love and to choose light and to choose the good way. And so the other thing, to close this episode out, the other thing that I mentioned at the beginning, it is why you all need to change so much is because it affects us. It affects women. Some of you may remember, others may not, but you can kind of gauge what I'm saying through music. Back in the day, there were songs like Round the Way Girl and Tenderoni. You know, it was about these sweet little, schoolgirls that were innocent. They stayed in the house, they didn't do much. And then it started gradually changing, and somehow it got to like Luke and Tip Drill and Project Chick, Hood Rat Bees, and all of that. And as the music changed, women changed. And of course, it's not necessarily because of the women, because of the music per se, but behind the thoughts, the perception that women had, that what men said in the music is what they actually wanted. Of course, some do. I won't really go into those numbers because I can't say for sure. But women actually changed because they thought, men wanted Project Chicks and Hood Rat Bees. You know what I mean? So what we do is based upon you all, for the most part. That's a good thing and a bad thing, somewhat ignorant, but it can be a good thing. But if what you all are portraying that you want is negative, is slutty, is worthless, is disrespectful, and that changes us to be those things, then, how can we ever grow? How can we ever build that way? We can't. Of course we can't. So that being said, we need you all to be the men and the kings and the gods that you call yourselves. We need you to actually be those things. A lot of people think that, and this is women and men alike, a lot of people think that once you get a certain age, that means that you're grown. But that's not necessarily the case. You may be of age, but you're not grown. You're not grown until you begin to mature and make wise decisions. That may be 25, but it may be 65 also. You can drive down any corner block and see grown men with their pants hanging down and their hats to the back drinking a 40. not necessarily anything wrong with that, but then again there is, and that's something to think about. But kind of getting back on track, we need you is the point. Like a lot of women, even myself at one point, Missing Independent was my song. I love Neo's music in general, but that was my song. But it promotes a falsehood, because there should be, Lauren, keep on coming in, I feel you. Sorry about that again, y'all. There should be no such thing as a Miss Independent. Not in a bragging sense. A grown woman, it's not necessarily God's way. Like for me personally, I don't want to get married. I don't see that in the plan for my life. But I don't brag about it either. You know what I mean? Like, because I understand that the way the world was built, the way the system is designed, is for a man to be with a woman and a woman to be with a man. Both have serious significance alone, but there's great power when they're together. They're, like kind of like two different sides of the same coin. But that being said, we can't, a lot of women, they kind of boast or would rather be alone because there aren't any real men, or there aren't any good gods, and there aren't any powerful kings. There's just a lot of people saying that. And like men or us ladies have to step up too and actually be ladies, because a lot of that is not being portrayed. But at the present moment, I'm speaking to the gentleman. So two things to really think about. Like, God is waiting on you, like the world is waiting on you, and that's scriptural too. I might put that in there at the bottom just as an added something else to read upon in the book of Romans chapter 1. The world is waiting on you, and so are we.